Good morning, friends. You're watching BrainStormAcres. I'm Henry.
And I'm Irene.
And today we're going to talk about three very specific topics. One is a little overview of our Great Pea Extravaganza, which is kind of fun. We have a number of videos that I'll link to in the show notes so you can follow along. The second one is sanitizing, and you may have seen a video that Irene did on sanitizing our water system. That's a very important topic, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And then last, maybe not least, but last, we're going to talk about why you want to flatten a curve when it comes to an outbreak. And why does it matter? So, let's get started.
Yep. This year we decided we were going to, we decided this last fall, that we were going to experiment with our peas. We have been watching a bunch of videos from the UK, and we were seeing a bunch of the gardeners over there starting peas in gutters for various reasons. Better germination, easier to control. They were often starting them in a high tunnel or a polytunnel or something like that.
One of the big reasons was to control rodents killing the peas.
Right. They have trouble with the rodents eating the pea shoots. Other people have trouble. We've had trouble in the past when we lived in California with crows and jays digging up the seeds.
They'd just pick them up and eat them.
Yeah, tasty.
They had a great time.
Yeah, really. We didn't appreciate it, though. So getting them up to a decent size before you put them out means they've got a better shot. And it also, in our case, because we're in a cold climate sometimes of the year, it gave us the opportunity to get a head start on it. So we've experimented with starting them in the greenhouse in gutters, also in a 162 tray, and then also planting some out in the garden. Our goal this year is to see what we can achieve in terms of getting peas. We've got flowers right now from the ones in the greenhouse, and trying to beat the curve, because we never know when the heat's going to come in, and peas do not like heat. And a lot of times in the spring here, we go straight from 60-degree highs to 90-degree highs, and the plants just kind of go, oh, I don't think so, and they slow down dramatically and then stop.
Now, I screwed up. I was supposed to get a new self-watering tub put together to put the peas from the 162 tray into that tub. I didn't get it done in time, and I did get it done. I got it done yesterday.
Yeah.
And Irene went ahead and transplanted those peas into the new self-watering pot.
Right. Those are the ones that came out of the 162. And that whole 162 thing is another story entirely.
Which we'll talk about separately.
Well, I've got a video about, cockpit error on my part. And then, actually, I did another video this morning when I was transplanting, talking about how impressed I was with the 162s once I got past the cockpit error.
Well, cockpit errors happen. This is the first time that we've tried to grow plants from seeds in that particular tray with the kind of seed starting soil that we were using.
So there was just a lot of variables all at once, and sometimes when you have too many variables, you get bit.
But we got that all sorted out. We also have some footage that we just took today out in the garden that shows you how much of an advantage starting those peas in the greenhouse has provided us. We'd guess we're at least a week ahead versus that which is out in the soil.
Oh, I would say more than a week. Because you got to realize the watering conditions, the temperature, everything in the greenhouse was pretty close to perfect. Got a little warmer in there a couple times during the day than I would have preferred, but pretty much close to perfect in the greenhouse, whereas they were having to deal with some wild swings in the garden.
Well, we had temperatures in the low 30s quite a number of evenings, nights, and then early in the morning. And then there were days when we were only in the upper 40s. So things were slow.
This week we actually had to cover the peas that we transplanted out this week because we hit the 20s.
That's kind of the story on the Great Pea Extravaganza.
Right, and we'll keep you guys posted in terms of, I mean, it's nice to look at them and how wonderfully green they are and all that stuff, but what really counts in the long run is what kind of production do we get out of them.
What's really awesome is we have some blossoms on those peas that we just put out a few days ago. So I'm pretty excited. I'm looking forward to eating some awesome peas.
Yeah, we love peas fresh out of the garden. And when my kids were little, I used to grow snow peas a lot, and I always wondered why I was getting such lousy production. And then I realized the kids were eating them in the garden. And since the whole point was to have the kids eat vegetables, it doesn't make any difference to me.
It worked out perfectly. Now, the next topic we're going to talk about is sanitizing. What you probably don't know about Irene is that she is federally licensed. I think the license has expired now, but she was federally licensed to operate a commercial canning operation. That means if she wanted to, she could go to work for, I don't know, Campbell's
Del
Soup,
Monte, somebody like
any of
that,
those people, and she could run their operation. She has all the licenses, all the class work, 16 classes in 4 days, 16 tests in 4 days. But she did that. Now, you ran a chai tea plant, and that was shelf-stable tea products.
Right. What we did was we produced concentrates for cafes, basically, that would sit on the shelf until you opened it. And once you opened it, and there's lots of things that we buy in the grocery store like that. They're shelf stable. They're not eternal in terms of their lastability, their survival rate, but they have a very long survival rate. And we actually experimented before I left there, and we were tasting and testing stuff that had been sitting on the shelf for over a year. And we normally told people he was good for at least 3 months, and then we kind of upped it to 6 months because at a year you couldn't tell a difference in the flavor. It was starting to lose a little of the sharpness of some of the spices, but it was still perfectly safe in terms of the acidity content and all that other kind of stuff. So that means it was safe.
Now, Irene was operating in a commercial environment. I've been a long-time brewer. And what you try to do in brewing is you want to sanitize your brewing equipment. You don't want to have mold or mildew or anything like that floating around. But the whole point about brewing is to create an environment in which the good bugs beat out the bad bugs.
Right.
Now, when Irene was running that chai tea plant, she used sanitizing solutions. You used Clorox?
We used Clorox. When we would shut down for breaks, I used mostly college students. So we would organize our production around the college schedule so that I could have all these great kids that were working their way through school working for me.
What we did at that company, what Irene mostly did, was she used different cleaning protocols. Every day she used Clorox kind of products. They had chlorine in them.
Right.
And that did a really good job of sanitizing the production facility. Mm-hmm. But then periodically, especially when she was going to shut down,
we used quaternary ammonia on the floors because quaternary ammonia leaves, they use that in hospitals commonly. It's got a kind of a funky smell to it. It's not a true ammonia smell, but it leaves a residue behind that inhibits growth of all kinds of stuff for quite a while afterwards. So it was perfect when we would shut down for a week or more. Now, you don't use that inside the production equipment, but you do that on the floors. And that just, and by switching back and forth between various chemicals, you can prevent or try to prevent any particular strain of anything from building up a resistance. And there are things like Clorox that are almost impossible to build up a resistance to.
So that's one of the reasons why we use the Clorox. Sorry for the brand reference, but that's what we used because it is cheap, it's reliable, it's a known concentration, and we can dose the water tanks to get rid of the biofilm that we had. And there's a link in the show notes to that video as well. Mm-hmm. So we use that for that reason.
Right, and people shouldn't be afraid of Clorox. It has its place. You know, do I enjoy it when I turn on a faucet and I can smell chlorine? No, I don't. I've always hated public swimming pools because Clorox is just nasty. And the reason the Clorox in the swimming pools has to be so nasty is because people are so dirty. You know, you can't even if you require everyone, like we used to belong to some health clubs that required everyone to shower before you went in. But how good a job are you doing?
Most people aren't.
Most people aren't. You're not really making yourself clean. You will remove some of the dead skin, which is important because anytime you add organics to water, it eats the chlorine quickly.
Yeah, so this leads us right into the last topic that we wanted to talk about today. You know, we have a large number of people who ask us questions about all manner of things. One of the questions that we got was, actually from several people, was a variant of, why do we want to flatten the curve?
Right.
Why does it matter? Who cares? Everybody's going to get sick anyway, so why not just get it over with? And the answer is...
We have Dr. Johnny. Dr. Johnny has 10 ventilators in his facility. He has 9 patients. Life is good. Everybody's okay. We don't flatten the curve. Now he has another 4 patients show up. 3 of those are going to die. If we had waited another week or 2, some of those previous people would have gotten better and been off the ventilators. But because we didn't, those other people showed up and they died because there were no ventilators.
Yeah, so this may sound a little bit dramatic, but it's not wrong.
No.
This is exactly what happens with any kind of outbreak where you want to flatten the curve. Mm-hmm. The reason why you want to flatten the curve is because that way you spread out the arrival of people at the hospital or the facility, wherever it is, so that you don't overtax the facilities. Now, we talk in terms of ventilators right now, but it's also doctors and nurses and personal protective equipment and oxygen gas and cleaning supplies and janitors and all those things. So there's a real reason why you want to flatten the curve. And there's a real reason why I'm staying home most of the time. When I go into the post office, I go in on off hours as much as possible when there's not other people there. I'm an older guy. I have another issue that causes problems if I contract some kinds of diseases. So I just don't want to do that. But when I go in, I wear an N95 mask, courtesy of Irene's shop. She had a few. I think we had 4.
I think total we have 6 between the 2 of us. Because I use them when I carve stone. And I just keep a stash of them because I actually have had people come visit who wanted to learn, and they have to wear one too. So there's one of the masks out there has a label on it because it's somebody else's.
So we have some things like that we're using. I wear disposable gloves. I use sanitizing lotion. I scrub up when I get home. It may seem like too much work or too much bother or too much everything, but it isn't.
No.
It's your health. It's your family's health. It's your neighbor's health. It's all the people around you. So do the right thing. Take precautions. Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. We have people who go to events all the time, same kind of events we do, and they're always sick for a solid week after they get home. Well, they're like, I don't understand. You guys almost never get sick, and what do you do different? Well, first of all, we eat well while we're at an event. We're eating 3 meals a day the same way as we would at home. We're eating healthy food. We very rarely eat from commercial vendors. Those that we do choose to eat from are the ones that we trust in terms of sanitation. We wash our hands on a regular basis. We clean our equipment that we use for processing credit cards.
Well, we hope that this was of interest to you. We hope there was some information here that you found interesting.
And be sure to come back, because that pea experiment of ours is going to be really quite something.
Well, it already is quite something.
Yes, but it'll be fun when we actually get to show people a pile of peas.
And we'll go into some more detail on some of the planting techniques that we're using. We're not above borrowing techniques from around the world. It doesn't matter where it comes from. If it works, and we're going to use it.
Right. Well, when we started watching stuff from the UK, because we were finding some really well-organized videos, very systematic about how people were doing things. And whenever you watch a video, you have to look and you have to say, well, this is my environment, this is their environment. How close are they? How, is this going to work? And sometimes we see things that we go, wow, I wish we could do that here. People will talk about getting, truckloads of leaves to turn into compost. Well, you know what? There are no truckloads of leaves around here. They'll talk about going to a tree cutting company and getting free chips because they have to pay to dump it. No, they don't. Not around here because there aren't any tree cutting companies. You get lumber companies and they sell their chips for money.
We hope your Saturday morning is going great. Please like and subscribe if you like what we're doing here. Besides, you have to stick around to find out what's going to happen next on the Great Pea Extravaganza. And we have some other projects planned that you'll probably also find interesting.
I think so.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Bye.
Bye.
I sink down to the sofa too far.
That's that one's been sat on more. It just has been.
Not fair.
It's an old sofa.